Who would you be if you were not your name? You were not your beliefs or your studies, your profession, your successes, your failures. Who would you be then? So today, we're going to find out from our amazing, beautiful guest, Ingrid Honkala, PhD, all about what she learned through her amazing near deaths. Not one, not two, but three near deaths. One as a child and two as an adult. So let's look at Ingrid. Oh my gosh, you are no lightweight. I'll tell you what, Ingrid Honkala, PhD, is a marine biologist, former NASA oceanographer, and international speaker, has had multiple spiritual transformative experiences, three near deaths, and she's from Bogota, Colombia originally, but now she's in the States. There's so much. I mean, literally, we could talk about your bio forever, but we want to get to the meat and potatoes because that's what our listeners, how can we move humanity forward? That's always our lean and my aim. So where do we
Ingrid,
start?
welcome.
Wow, welcome,
You
welcome,
taking
welcome.
time to be with us on our channel here and to open
Yes,
and grow people into the light more and to see what this world, what this is all about, what we call our life, right? And
right.
your story, it's phenomenal.
It's
So
amazing.
bring us to where you started. You opened spiritually. What happened to you?
First, thank you, beautiful ladies, for having me here and for being a vehicle for the light to shine through. I just feel the chills. Um, just
We
very
all
grateful
three of
to
us
be
are.
here. Yeah, this is so good. And thank you for that beautiful introduction. But wow, yes, the path to remember, the way to remember who I truly am, who we truly are, it started when I was just a little child. And it all began with an accident in which I drowned. And what happened is that, as you mentioned, I was born in Bogota, Colombia. My parents will leave us at the care of a lady. And when they were not around, she just really didn't care, pay attention to what we were doing. And my oldest sister, she was close to three. She was close to four. I was two, she was three. And then I was close to 3 years old. And then just these two little ones playing in the patio of the house with no supervision. And the problem was that in this patio, there was a big tank. And the purpose of this tank was to collect water for hand washing clothes. We were not allowed to play there because it was a deep, dangerous place. We didn't know how to swim, but hey, no one is watching. Let's have fun and play with a ball, play cash across the tank. When you're a child, you have to have those kind of moments of fun. And then we climbed the walls of the tank. She sat on the surface that is used for scrubbing. And I went on the other side of the tank and she threw the ball. She didn't apply enough force and the ball fell on the water and it was floating. And I thought, oh, of course I can grab the ball. I leaned forward. The moment I touched the ball, it rolled and I lost my balance and fell in the tank.
Wow.
The first feeling, I was born in the Andes, in the mountains. So the temperature in that water very early in the morning was very cold. It was probably between 30-40 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh my gosh.
So when I felt first the impact of the chill, this water was frigid cold. It already took like my breath away. And after that, it was the sense of why I cannot breathe. I never been under the water and I didn't know that if you fall in the water, you drown. Imagine the horror, the terror of you desperately wanting to breathe.
Mm.
And then I wanted to escape out of this place. And when I was in the midst of that terror, something amazing happened. In just a blink, this absolute serenity, calmness, goodness. I didn't know what happened, but I just didn't need to breathe anymore. I didn't need to be out of the tank. I didn't need to escape. It was just greatness. And then people ask me, how can I remember this if I was so young? And I always have to bring that clarity that first, imagine the trauma of drowning. It was very intense. The sense of that frigid water getting in your body and the contrast of terror to absolute peace. That was like something that I could never, ever erase from my mind. And it wasn't all more. I love the word contrast because this word will come many times today. But first, when I fell in the tank and I drowned and I was in terror, the moment that I went into calmness, the first thing or the last thing I saw was darkness. This space was very dark, this tank, and then I saw darkness. And this darkness was immediately replaced by light. The non-seem light. Another thing, right before I drowned, the horror of drowning, I could hear my heart pounding in desperate fear. And then that was replaced by absolute silence. This silence was so incredibly amazing, peaceful, serene, that even after the accident, when I came back, I craved that silence. And I craved that silence for the rest of my life, wanting to find it again. I would hide it under the beds, chapels, whatever it was, I wanted it back. Then now I am in this space of absolute peace and silence. And then suddenly I started to see bubbles, and the bubbles were surrounded by light. And it was so fun. And I started to chase the bubbles. And the moment I turned is when I saw a body in the water. And immediately I recognized that is my body. It did not surprise me. It did not scare me, but something remained really vivid in my mind. And it was that the body had the eyes open. And you know how we said that the eyes are like the mirror of the soul. But no, the moment I saw those eyes, it felt like the eyes were empty. And it was that sense of like, oh, that is just like a shell. And it came the next contrast. I was born as a very sick child, and I didn't know anything different than being sick until that moment of my life. And now I was experiencing absolute well-being. So imagine what, when I saw the body, I'm like, I'm not going back there. And I made the conscious decision of leaving the body behind. And the moment I left the body, I turned around and I started to see flowers. And the flowers were blooming from nowhere. And the flowers picked me up. And they kind of like, cuddle me like in a forward direction. And I'm like in this complete bliss. Suddenly, in just a flash, I appear in the lady's room, in the room where she was listening to the radio. And I clearly remember that she was listening to a soap opera.
Um,
And I saw her, I'm floating above her. And I'm like, oh, that's Maria. Nothing happened.
Not a good babysitter.
Yeah, she's like completely into her soap opera and aware of it.
Wow.
And then in another blink like that, I appear floating above my mom. And my mom had left for work, and she was very close to her bus stop. She was walking. And this is important to mention that my mom had got a new job. So what would be the urgency? You have to go to your new job. I mean, come on, it's your first day of your new job. No. I think this moment of this story, this experience. One is what makes this valid, like the veracity of this story. But the other is that I think it blows everybody's minds away, because the moment I was floating above my mom and I said, "Oh, that's mom," she stopped. She did not hesitate. She forgot all about her new job, and she knew something is happening at home with one of my babies. It's like she looked up and she knew, and she turned around and she started to run. And I look at my mom and with surprise, like with the sense of like, why is she running? But at that moment, I got distracted because at the end of the road, there was a dog, and I adore animals. So the moment I saw the dog and I felt the desire to be with the dog, I am with the dog. So at that moment, I forgot all about my mom and I am with the dog. And then at that moment, I saw a park and I felt the desire to be in the park. I am in the park. And I'm like, this is so much fun. And I started to play a game of being everywhere. So this sense of time and space as we know it had vanished, and I could be anywhere, anytime. And when I was having fun playing this game of going places, in another flash like that, everything just happened like this. I entered in a realm, and this realm was made of pure, intense, shiny, bright white light. And ladies, this was the first time in my almost 3 years of life that I felt, I am home. I am home. And I felt embraced and I felt welcome and I felt the familiarity of home. And then at that moment, something happened. And is that although I have seen my body in the water, up to this point, I didn't have the clear realization of who I was. And it's when I realized, I am not that. And it's when I realized myself as a being of light. And although I was still having a sense of self, I started to feel interconnected with everything, like dissolving into like the whole. It was like, and this went even farther, like when the sense of self even dissolved. And I experienced what I call nothingness. And some people get scared with the word nothing. So I want to make this clear. What this means is, and I'm going to give an analogy, a quick analogy to explain this. So imagine that there is a huge stadium, and in the middle of the stadium, there is a little tiny box, and all you thought you were was that box. And suddenly the box opens, and you realize, it's nothing because it's nothing I thought I was. But at the same time, is wholeness, totality, expansive state of being. So now I went to experience that state of wholeness. And this is probably one of the parts in the experience which is the most difficult to explain, because there's always the lacking of words to explain that immense sense of wholeness, totality, connection. The only words I could use probably is a moment of pure presence and just absolute consciousness. And if I have to describe an emotion, I would just say pure bliss. And when I am in this state, I was completely disconnected from this reality, but my mom arrived home. And this is the other incredible thing. My mom knew exactly where to go. And when she arrived to the house, she didn't waste time going to a bathroom, that. She knew. And she went to the back of the house. And there was my sister telling my mom, Ingrid is there and I cannot get her. So my sister was also a way to prove something is happening here. My mom went in the water. She pulled me out. She said that I was like a raggedy doll, no pulse, no breathing, all pale blue lips. And then my mom, she worked with children. And this is just an incredible synchronicity. She had been trained to do CPR for children. So my mom knew what to do, or I would not be here. And then, but I didn't feel anything. I was so disconnected from this reality. She was doing here whatever she was doing to the body. And the only thing I suddenly felt was like if I had jumped from the tallest building in the world. And there was nothing I could do to stop it. It was a sense of vacuum, a sense of like, I was being pulled vacuum back and I was resisting, like, no. And then I was like pulled and I knew I was back in the body when the sense of coldness and that sense of well-being. Now I was back in the body, feeling what all the stuff of the body and that sense of expansion. Whoop, back into the box. And then now, ladies, I was very, very, very mad. I was angry. I didn't want to be here, not because I was ungrateful or anything for my mom saving me. Remember, I was so little. So the analogy I could give about this is imagine that you take a child to an amusement park.
Oh, yeah.
And the child is having the best day of his life, her life, and you say, okay, it's time to go home. And you're
Right.
like, no. So that's how I felt, is the sense like, why you're taking me away from having fun, from living this moment. And then from that moment on, things went kind of hard hard for us. I just
Yeah.
was angry.
Ingrid, you make a good point because I've interviewed many, many NDEers and they all said they're angry to come back. Who wants to go back in that sickly body or that shriveled up body? But what of all the things that you were shown by these beings of light, and I know they told you that you wouldn't be ready for another 20 years because we have to go through our lessons. What do you think is the most important takeaway from those beings that you could pass on to the public, the listeners here?
Wow, there's so many
There's so many. I
so
know.
many teachings I received from them, but I think that starting from the place of they showing me what true home was, light was. See, I started to have clear revelations of, like, when I mentioned in my first near-death experience that I saw light,
Mhm.
and that the light was able to illuminate the whole watery surrounding at the beginning, I always thought that that light was something outside of myself. And it's when they brought the clarity, no, that light is who you are. You are the light. They started to bring clarities of, like, the feeling of home. I always felt the sense I have to go somewhere, I have to go there. But since I was very little, they were showing me home is not a place, it's a state of being. I just could not really grasp it in its totality until later. But when I started to see them when I was little, they would first I started to see them in like a state of sleeping when I would just have out of body experiences. And later I started to see them here. And when every time I connected with them, I sensed the it was the feeling of home. So first it was sleeping, then they show me, look, when you're awake and you see us here with your own eyes, and when you are experiencing your life, how do you feel? The same feeling of home. So they were always trying to show me home is not a place, it's a state of being.
Yeah.
Another very important thing before we move is that people ask me how you know these beings of light are good, how you know that they're
Right.
not like some strange things, evil beings there. And I said, there's a very important key to know the distinction. And they brought this to my clarity since I was a little child. They say, do not believe what we say blindly, experience it yourself. So if somebody come to your life and say, I am your teacher, I am your guru, I am your all, I say, run and run fast. Because what the beings of light taught me since I was very little, it was always the teachings of go within. Don't listen blindly to what we say, go within. So any guru, teacher, master that guide you to look within is the true teacher. They guide you to remember you are the guru of your own temple. You are the light too. So always they say we are all the same. We're all the light. The only difference is the level of awareness you have about who you truly are.
That is such a profound statement that you made.
Wow. It
Listeners,
is.
go back and listen to that again. I'm getting chills all over. This is confirmation for these words came through me. I know they've come through Joanne. And it's a confirmation of that because we are all pieces of the source put together. We're all parts of that. So we have it within us.
Exactly.
Oh, and that goes back to listening to your gut. When we listen to our gut, it's our guidance, our compass. You know, what I want to talk about also, I want the listeners to hear because there's many people that have these experiences. I mean, you had yours at such a young age, but the recall of it is, it blows my mind that you have such total recall. I know I had mine coming in. I was younger than you. I was an infant. I was checking out. Your story is fascinating. I'm going to fast forward because as you were growing and everything, because you didn't want to be here. This is a very common thread because I used to have a near-death experience group that used to meet. No one wanted to come back. They said they would be holding on like with their hands, like clawing. No, I don't want to go back. And I think an important aspect is when they do come back, they get depressed. People are depressed. They want to end their lives because they don't, this is just too much. It's too intense. And they want to go back to the place. And I think for a lot of folks, and you could touch on this as far as sleeping, and this was confirmation for me also, because as a child, I would sleep inordinate amounts of time. I grew up as we grow up in dysfunctional families. Mine was dysfunctional. There would be a lot of arguing. And I wanted, as you said, that quiet and peace, that stop it. I just want peace. And I would sleep, and reflecting back on it now, I'm thinking, I was depressed.
Mhm.
I know it because I was a child.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
could touch on that, right? And how did they help you? I think it's important for listeners to hear this because I think this is where a lot of people have their emotions with their own lives that it's too overwhelming and they want to end it, or they've had these experiences. They can't explain it to anyone. They're afraid to because they think they'll be, viewed as crazy. But maybe if you could expand on that, and how did you get out of sleeping all the time or out of that depressiveness?
Yes. Oh, there's so many stages that I had to experience through to get to the point where I am today. But one of those first moments, as I was mentioned before, is that, yeah, when I was a little child, I wanted to sleep all the time. But again, I could not be the child that had left forever. So to balance that is when I started to see beings of light here, like manifested in this physical reality. But not everybody has the chance to experience this. So in my case, it had to happen this way because we all have our purpose and we all have the work that we meant to do here. And to me, it was to bring these clarities, to bring this knowledge, to bring these teachings. But in reality, the way that things continue to evolve for me and to get out of that depression was actually even through the help of others, other people. See, this is beautiful because it's when we realize and look at how important we are. We are all beings of light manifested in this human body. So it's like we are all precious beings. So this is the other way. The beings of light were showing me, look, is not just us. All of us are beings of light. And it was through the help of a psychologist at some point in my life and in my late, I think it was late 30s, very early 40s, when I had what I call my big awakening. And in that moment of my life, I was so depressed. I went through the dark night of the soul. I thought I would take my life. And it's when I heard the voice saying, wait one more day, wait one more day. And it also came the clarity of you actually take your life because we are eternal beings. Nothing is really changing. You may avoid it for a moment, but you will have to repeat again once you
Right.
continue. So it was that these clarities that came very, very profound. There's so much to talk there that we could just completely make another um interview on that.
Yeah, but you gotta come back.
But
Too
at that
much.
moment, I was guided. It was completely guided to meet a psychologist. The very next day, I received this clear message saying, "You need help. Look for help." And it was the help from another person. And I went online. I looked for a help of a psychologist. And then it happened to be a person with a very good feedback. And I went to this person, but it was not just that. I met this person or I wrote his name on a paper, and that very day, I met two other people that recommended the same person. So
There
I
you
knew
go.
this
That's your
is synchronicity.
Great confirmation. Yeah.
I went to meet him. He was a very spiritual person. And then by talking with him, I started to feel the sense of openness. And then it was a process because I wasn't going to go with, I see beings of light. It was a process, but he showed me that I could trust him. And then one day he told me to write a list of my sufferings. And then I did the list. And then he said it was very cathartic. And then I did it. And then we read it together. And then he, looking at the list, he said, "You're the first person in my 37 years of career that has suffered this much and is mentally stable."
Uh-huh.
And I went into a shock. And I was crying and I said, "What?" I said, didn't even think I was the person that suffered the most or anything. And then I said, the first words that escaped my mouth was like, "Why me? Why this is happening to me?" And he brought two magic words. He said, "Why not?"
Yeah.
And he wasn't looking at a list of things he was writing, nothing. He said, "Look, thanks to all these things that you have shared with me, thanks to this, you've done this, thanks to this, you've done that, thanks to this, you come to these clarities, blah. And then at that moment, I realized something really, really powerful. What is the power of listening? I realized he's been listening. And that carries so much healing just right there. And
Right.
then, but another thing happened. I started to tie all the knots and I started to see purpose behind everything. And I'm like, you are right. And it was like a map opening my mind, showing me
Yeah.
the purpose behind all my experiences. And instead of seeing the negative, I started to see the positive. And 3 miracles happened that day.
Mm.
The first miracle was the realization that nothing never happened to me. It happened for me.
For you.
It's
Right.
like, I
So important.
I started to see it with that clarity. Everything has happened to bring me to this place of awareness, clarity, openness, evolution I have today. The next miracle was the realization that my only and only truth was that I was sitting in front of this psychologist, this person, and nothing else was true. Everything was a narrative in my mind. So I felt empowered. I felt I can do whatever I want with the narrative in my mind because my only truth is this present moment. The rest is all here. So I felt empowered. And the last miracle was the feeling of like discovering what true forgiveness was. And it was the realization that if nothing, of course, ever happened to me but for me, then what was to forgive? See, gratitude completely flooded me.
Yes.
I was like, so I could say two things. There was nothing to forgive, everything was forgiven. And that's when I had that big moment of awakening. And when I left his office and now I'm driving my car, I felt the presence of the creator, God, source, ultimate reality, whatever we want to call it, everywhere. It was like when you enter in that space of complete gratitude, forgiveness, you're elevated, your vibrational energy is so high, you feel the energy of love. Gratitude, I always say, what are the things you feel grateful for? The things that make you feel great.
Yes.
And what are the things that make you
Exactly.
feel great? The things that you love. So gratitude and love are synonyms. So at that moment that I am in that state of absolute gratitude, love, I connected to God. I connected to the
Mm.
realm of the divine. And that is how I started to come out of that state of depression, was realizing, remembering, I am the light. I am an empowered being. I am a being that can, through my own decision, turn things around. And I know the time is short, but for me, the culmination of that realization happened with my last near death experience, in which, even though I had those awakenings, that little reminiscence of wanting to go back home was there. That didn't take the feeling of like, yeah, all this is great, but I want to go back home. And when I had my third near death experience, that it was only 3 years ago,
Oh,
it
wow.
was
I'm sorry to interject. I don't wanna interrupt you. What could you tell us what happened? I mean, that's really recent.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
It's really recent. 3 years is not that long ago. It's like a blink of an eye.
Right.
So, if you don't
yes,
mind, I mean, are you
Yeah. Were
alright
you sick or in
share
an accident?
well, share
yes,
what
yes.
what happened to
So what happened is that there was I had to go through this surgery. I was having a very bad situation with how you call this, like it was like these very very extreme bleedings, and it was required that I got a hysterectomy.
like emergency surgery?
Yeah, so
Mhm.
I really was afraid of this surgery. I didn't want this surgery to happen, but because I have felt the sense already that something was going to happen in the surgery. And right before the surgery, I told the doctor something is going to happen. I had the clarity. And then and I knew it was with my blood pressure. So I knew exactly what was going to happen. And then few things happened before the surgery that brought me to find the right doctor. Like as I found the right psychologist, the synchronicities brought me to find the right person. And then a person that was going to listen, because not many doctors will listen to, you're just calm down, nothing is happening. No, this doctor listened. She called the anesthesiologist, and they all like were paying attention because I was very adamant something is going to happen. They said it was a quick sample. I mean, in the midst of surgeries, that it wasn't going to be a very hard surgery to do, but it happened when I went through the procedure. As I said it, my blood pressure dropped. My body went into hypothermia, and I went back to the light.
Wow.
Different from my other experiences, I did not need, when after having 3 near-death experiences, it's not like you go through all the stages of experiencing things until you go to the light. I went directly to the light. Cut
Wow.
with the chase. You're here. And then I am in
Wow.
the light, and something happened different from the other 2 near-deaths. In the other 2 near-deaths, I was sent back. I was not asked anything. I was just back. In this one, for the first time, I was given the choice.
Ah.
Wow.
If I
Interesting.
wanted to stay or I wanted to come back.
Did
Wow.
you hear a voice? Did they ask? Did they say, okay, Ingrid, do you want to stay or you want to go back?
Yes,
Yeah.
Really?
that clear.
Wow.
Were
And
they like, did they show up as angels or orbs of light?
okay, I have to explain because it's been a long, long, long process of awakening.
Yeah.
This time I have to tell you, ladies, because in my first near death, I did not know the word God. I didn't know, like as you have heard in some of my interviews, I didn't need names. So I as a child, I didn't know the name God, but I discovered through time that the light that embraced me, the light that hugged me, the light that was present with me was the light of God. So I had that absolute connection and communion and the love of God. I felt it with all my being, and I kept feeling it through my life in my second year there and in other experiences. And I was back to that embrace, feeling and being with God, and the voice I sensed to me was the voice of God. And I said, I know if you know to explain to people how they know the difference when God is talking or when being or like an angel, a teacher is talking. Just imagine your parents. You can have the most loving and caring teachers, but that's a teacher. And when your parent, your mother, father is talking to you.
Oh, wow. Okay. So there's a big difference.
Oh,
Okay.
yes. Oh, yes. And you get to truly know it.
So,
And
what was the reasoning for you to come back?
you will see, this is amazing, because then when I heard you want to stay, I heard it directly from source. You want to stay or you want to come back? Of
Right.
course, the moment I heard you want to stay, I'm like, of course I want to stay. Are you kidding me? This is heaven. I've been wanting to be here for 50 years. Of course I want to stay. But then, or you want to come back, stay there. And it's when all those years of practicing awareness, of practicing presence, of meditating, all that came into this moment as an awareness that said from within, wait a minute, is this a test? I said, because if you, God, you Father, you my creator, if you are everywhere and absolutely everything is a manifestation of consciousness, universal consciousness.
Right.
So, where is here and where is there?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
I said, there is no here and there is not there. This is all just a trick. This is just simply consciousness being manifested in this physical reality.
Right. That's how powerful you are.
Yes.
That's what we forgot.
There's only light. There's only God.
Exactly.
Like you said, we're all extensions. We're all the sparks of the
We're like
divine.
cells of God when you look at it that way.
Then, of course, at that moment, I'm like, I get it. There is no here. There is not there.
There's
So
no right. There's no wrong. There's
there's
no
no
good,
wrong. So what
bad.
I
It
understood.
just is.
Yes. I
Just
said, this is
is.
just a trick of the ego. The
Right.
ego wants to bring us to comfort. The ego
Right.
doesn't want trouble. The ego doesn't want hardship. The
Exactly.
ego wants it easy. So at that moment, I knew, is this a test? So when I said, there is no here, there is not there, there is only light. So
There's only light.
something happened at that moment. Only words that crossed my mind at that moment was, keep me where I can serve you the most.
Ah,
And when I say keep me where I can serve you, God, when I can serve you, Father, Mother, the most. Whoop. What happened at the beginning when I was asked if I wanted to stay or I wanted to go, I did not feel attachment. I was not attached to my family, to my son. I adore them. I love them, but there was no attachment. And I knew everything was happening according to the plan in perfect order, that everything was as it should be, that everything was all right. I didn't have to, if I was or not, or I wasn't in the life of my son, my husband, my family, my friends, it was irrelevant because everything was perfect. It was irrelevant and it wasn't. It just really didn't matter because everything was following a perfect order.
you really see it as you get older, and then you could reflect back on all the steps you took to get to where you are now, and it's mind-blowing.
It's
Like,
peeling
oh,
layers.
now I know why I had to go through that.
Yes, peeling layers.
Oh, now I get it.
Yes. So when
Oh.
I said, keep me where I can serve you the most, where I
Right.
can serve God the most, the sense of the anchor was my son, my husband, the people, but not as a needing thing. It was as I still have purpose with them. I still have purpose with the things I come to do in this physical body as Ingrid. So I
Be a
saw
way shower for
purpose,
others.
yes. And I
Yeah.
said, okay, bring me to that purpose. And then I came back here. And it's when now I completely close the whole circle of home is not a place, it's a
Right.
state of being.
Exactly.
And then, ladies, it came this enormous, incredible realization. It was never about dying. It was never about near-death experience. It's about near-life experience. How I
Exactly.
live my life to the fullest, Arlene. And
What
this
can
is
you
how
do to
the
make it count?
depression.
Right.
Yes, that's
Make it
how
count.
depression ends. When you
Wow.
realize it's not about dying, we are eternal beings.
Right.
That's very powerful. Our listeners, listen to this. A message,
Yes. Take notes. This is
please, to
important.
every one of us. Examine where you are now. Are you existing in this,
Right.
just existing, or are you living?
Right. And are you searching for something outside of you? Blaming everybody outside of you? Stop.
Stop and smell the roses and enjoy every moment and
You are that powerful.
Yes,
live it,
yes,
because there are so many out
Right.
there.
Oh
I've
my
looked at
gosh.
myself where you're just existing. You're just going from moment to
Yeah.
moment, and you think, what a struggle and what this is, and
Or God's punishing me, or oh my, you hear it all.
You don't imagine when I got this teaching from the Being So Light, they said to me, Ingrid, you don't imagine how grateful everyone would be if they realize that for you to exist, you Arlene, you Joan, you listeners, for you to exist, trillions and trillions and trillions of subatomic particles have to be in agreement,
Mhm.
in connection. They say you are a divine intention.
Yeah, it's a miracle.
It is divine. They say,
We are miracles. We are walking miracles.
yes. So it's when I realized, wow,
Yeah.
we are divine.
Wow.
listen, we could go on and on.
I know we have to get you back because there's too many lessons. People need
Okay.
to hear this.
Ingrid, will
Yeah.
you come back? There's so many topics that I want to touch on because I'm
Uh,
in near death. I used to have a group. I don't know if you're aware of this, but in Connecticut, University of Connecticut was the founding place of near death with Dr. Kenneth Ring and oh God, who's the other Grayson?
Bernie Siegel.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Bruce
That,
Grayson.
yeah, and of course Ray Moody with Life After
Ray
Life,
Moody.
the 70s.
Yeah.
But this was, the forefront. And I used to have a group that used to meet monthly.
Oh, yes.
So, and there's a lot of topics I want to touch on as far as relationships when people go
For
through.
sure.
I think it's important for our listeners to hear. So we're inviting you back to come to specifically
Yes.
talk and focus on specific topics. Okay.
Right.
Yes. And I would love to touch the topic when we come back in the future about why suffering. I
Of
think that's a
course.
question
Yes.
everybody has, but
People,
it's
this is
so
important,
important.
especially
Yeah.
now.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And
Joanne.
don't forget, Ingrid wrote a beautiful book, A Brightly Guided Light. So check that out on Amazon. Wow. This has been so amazing and so many confirmations, right, Arlene?
Oh my Lord.
Everything
I was getting
that we were shown.
Ingrid, we call it the wave.
The wave, it's
on
just
my
going up and
feel
down the
through my
body.
whole body. It was just a continual of all this time. It was just waving through.
Right.
And
We teach this over and over, but not many people get it. So hopefully they'll get it from you, Ingrid. Whatever it takes.
Oh gosh. I felt it too, this connection with you. Beautiful
Really
soul.
powerful triangle here.
we have the Trinity. We have the
That's the
Trinity.
Trinity.
Going on.
And we
So-
all had the same, it was interesting that we all had the same birth experiences where, I was near death, blue. They gave me my last rites. Arlene almost didn't make it. You had, somehow we knew we had work to do.
We
Come on, girls, you made a promise.
look at us. We're here.
Look at us. Look at the millions of people that between the three of us.
Yeah.
I mean, I've taught conferences all over for 25 years. Arlene with her shop and you at our podcast and our books. Oh my gosh. So
Yeah.
no, we're doing it. We're reaching
So
the
for
people.
all of our listeners, we'll have all of Ingrid's wonderful information listed below this.
Yes.
And
And don't forget to like and subscribe. Got to grow this.
I want to
Gotta-
thank everyone for being here, for watching, for listening. And as I always say, get out of here. For those that
Right.
are listening, get out of your head and go into your heart.
Yes.
It's about our heart. And be the beautiful beacons of light that you are and shine it out there. It is so needed. We're all needed. We're all needed.
Yes.
Here to lift each other up. And that's what we're all about. It's about
You matter. Don't
matter.
ever put yourself
Yeah.
down again. You are the light.
You all matter.
Thank you for
Yes.
having me here.
Oh my gosh, this was
Okay.
fabulous.
Thank you,
Ingrid.
And we're here, folks, every Wednesday at 11 o'clock. There's new episodes. So tune
Yes,
and we will have Dr. Ingrid back with us.
for
There's
sure.
so much more we have to touch on. So
And
much.
share this podcast episode. It's
so
fabulous.
honored. Yeah. Yes.
So thank you, everybody. All in
Thank you. Thank you, Arlene. Thank you,
Right,
Ingrid.
Thank you.
You guys are
Until next
beautiful.
time.